right now. Here with me in studio, I have Lillian Mutua, who's the County Health Promotion Coordinator. Karibu sana to the show.
Thank you.
And we want to just talk a bit about coronavirus and kind of where things stand. We're grateful now that there seems to be a ray of hope as Kenya has confirmed 2 people who have overcome the illness, COVID-19. Talk to me about that.
We have seen that yesterday we had 2 persons who were released from the treatment center at Bagathi, having tested negative after treatment and care. And we know that at right now we have other patients who are still tested to be positive, and they are still in care and treatment. And what I'd like to tell the citizens is that once you have been tested positive, most of the public are having the notion that if you test positive, you are going to die. That is not the situation. There is treatment, there is care that one is given, and you're able to come out of it.
Right.
If you look at the statistics worldwide, not as many people have died
Than the ones who've
than the ones who
contracted.
have contracted and those who have been treated and have been discharged from the treatment centers.
Yeah.
So there is full hope. We know that the Ministry of Health has set interventions. They've set treatment centers. And as you've seen, even other counties apart from Nairobi have reported confirmed cases. Then they are put on treatment. So there is no need of having panic, having a lot of anxiety. Once tested positive, then it's not a sentence to death.
Right.
And this should also allay the fear and encourage citizens. If you think you are exhibiting the COVID-19 symptoms, that is the high fever, the difficulty in breathing, the continuous coughing, the sneezing, the headache, kindly call 719 and we will respond to you.
Okay. Now, there's a question, an important one too, where a lot of people are asking, if you contract COVID-19 and you overcome it, does your body then sort of build immunity against it, in the sense that, is it possible for you to contract it again?
The measures are the same for everybody. And as we know, the COVID-19 is a new disease that we are still researching. The scientists and the researchers, day and night, they are getting to study around the disease. And we are even asking those who are being checked off the treatment centers who have turned negative to put the same measures like everybody else. Because this is a new disease, it has not been there. We don't know what happens. So it is for everybody, even if you have been treated and you come out negative after treatment, you shall still apply the same interventions.
Okay, so at the moment we don't know for 100% yet if you can contract it again or not. So best for you to just follow the measures.
Because this is a communicable disease,
Yeah.
and as we have said earlier, it is through droplets. So you might just touch a surface and infect yourself again
Again,
and
yeah.
go through the same cycle.
Okay.
So we will still encourage, even if you have been treated,
Yeah.
still look at the prevention and control measures, keep the social distances, do have the cough and sneezing etiquette, make sure that you continuously and regularly wash your hands with soap and water. If not available, sanitize your hands. Make sure that if you suspect any of the COVID signs, you still call 719 and you'll be responded to.
All right. So there's a ray of hope that people can overcome this. And as you've seen, the number of, and it's not something to fear that, you know, once you have it, then that's a death sentence, as she said. So there's that ray of hope, but at the same time, be responsible thereafter, even after you've been treated, not just for yourself, but for the people around you as well. And it brings to light a different question, which is a lot of people don't seem to understand the difference between quarantine and isolation. I think some people think that for as long as I'm well, I don't need to be quarantined. But there's a difference between the two. Tell us, what is quarantine and who is it for? And what is isolation and who is it for?
When we are talking about quarantine is that when you're quarantined, you are put in a site where you're not able to continue with public engagement and you are under observation, like if today you reported that you have the suspected cases, you'll be taken into, maybe you are in a health facility. They'll put you first in what we call the holding space, just to wait for you maybe to be picked up, to go for testing, or for a response team to come and take your samples while there. But after you are confirmed positive, then you are quarantined to go through care and treatment, because as the disease progresses, you could also develop complications like difficulty in breathing, and maybe you need assisted breathing, and this cannot be done at home. This cannot be done in any other place but in a hospital. For the returnees who have come back out of other countries, you remember that through the different points of entry, the people who are coming from without Kenya, they were held into quarantine for 14 days, not because they were sick, but for them to stay there, because they could have come from countries which are reporting COVID. During their travel, they might have transited through countries that are reporting COVID. They may have traveled with someone who was ill and without showing symptoms, and that is why they are put in those quarantine centers for 14 days, so that we can observe, so that we don't let someone be released to the community who is already infected, and the signs show when they're in the community. So this is one way of just cutting off the possible infections into community. For the isolation, it's still when we isolate you, like what we are doing in Bagathi, so that you can be taken there for treatment and care, and also looking at because this person is already infected, we are looking at them as a potential risk to the rest of the community or the rest of the population where they are. So even the stay at home, when we are telling people to stay at home, we are self-isolating. It is self-isolating, so that you also don't go to a possible risk. Because if there are people who are already infected and they've not started exhibiting the signs, and you're coming into contact with them, when the droplets drop on any surface and you're able to get into contact with those surfaces, you will possibly infect yourself. So these are preventive and control measures that are being put in place.
All right. Okay. Well, we're hearing a lot of reports about, that the worst of this actually might still be ahead of us, that the next few months might be pretty tough. Here already in Kenya, we're understanding that the cases have risen to 81 now, as 22 more people have tested positive. What's your standpoint, or what are your thoughts on that, really, as far as where are we going, and as far as managing the spread of corona here in Kenya? How would you assess how we're faring?
Normally, when we look at communicable disease or any other notifiable disease, we look at the disease patterns. As we remember, the first big population incidents started in China. We have looked at the pattern, what happened in China. We have looked at other countries after China where people got infected and what the trends were. So when we are saying that Kenya might also follow the same curve, it is because we look at this from a scientific point of view. And this is done through the studies in epidemiology, where we study the pattern and the trends of diseases. And as you've seen, even the other countries, you first start with the tens, the first reported case, then you go to the tens, then you go to the hundreds, then you go to the thousands. And it is not very difficult, like it was before, for us to bring the curve down. And that is why we are asking the citizens to take personal, household, family, community, and societal responsibility. It is not about the government putting measures and putting the COVID to a halt. It is through my effort, your effort, our concerted efforts that will bring the COVID down in Kenya. So if we do not want to see those big numbers, like we are being told, stay at home. You find that most of the people, they've been told to stay even out of the offices, work from home. But what are they doing? Instead, you find people are just going around. This is not time for visitations. You don't go visiting your neighbors, visiting your families, visiting your relatives, entertaining people. This is not the time for that. You've even seen that we are saying if you need to maybe do a burial, let it have not more than 15 people. And even when those 15 people are there, let them even have the safe distances, the social distances. Let them even be encouraged to wash their hands as they go through those processes. And we have even said that if it is a burial, let it not even exceed more than 2 hours. Do your prayer, bury your person, leave the place. Yes.
So, as you're saying then, in order for us to flatten this curve, you're saying it's not even about a government instituting a lockdown. You're saying that this is really about us as individuals, because a lot of people have been saying, should we have been locked down, from the very first case? Would that have made a difference? But it also sounds like whether or not there was one, there's a lot of personal discipline that's really coming into play here. It's our own personal responsibilities and our own self-discipline to say, you know what, I'm not going to leave the house, I'm just going to stay at home.
Exactly. And it's about keeping reminding ourselves. The conversation should not start and end now. Or we should not think that because we've been told to keep all those measures, then the conversation stops. Let us remind ourselves. If you're at workplace, keep reminding your workmates. Let us keep the social distance. Let us be encouraged to wash our hands. If the water is not available, let us sanitize. If you're in public, just remember that you are supposed to keep the social distance.
Right.
I've seen this happening at the supermarkets, at the malls. You are kept at bay to wait for other people to go through their shopping. Then you are let in. Then what happens when we go in? We forget to keep the distances. At the workplace, what are we doing? We forget and start going to sit close to each other. What are we doing? We want to have a cup of tea at workplace and converge maybe on one table. So it is a discipline, it is a behavior that has to be cultured into us, and it has to be continuous. So even I was telling some people, it's yes, because of COVID, we are doing our regular hand washing, and everybody is emphasizing on sanitizing, and everybody is now observing the cough etiquette, and people are keeping themselves safe in whatever measures that have been put. Are we going to disrupt this after the COVID?
Right.
It is healthy. These are healthy practices.
Yeah.
They should continue.
All right. Certainly should continue after this. Of course, it will change a lot of culture and traditions, right? But if it's going to help reduce the spread of this and other diseases thereafter, then certainly this is a lifestyle change that we all just need to be adapting to. And maybe that should be of comfort to many people, that it's not just you who's being asked to adapt to your lifestyle. All of us, literally across the world, from presidents to paupers, we're all being asked at this point to adapt our lifestyles and make these behavioral changes. So then, thank you very much for coming onto the show and sharing these insights with us. I think just, very stern reminders for us. This social distancing, we need to take it seriously. We really do. And of course, washing your hands and cough etiquette and all that you've talked about. So
and even because we don't know whether I or you or the other person is infected.
Right.
Let us even start the masking. Let us have masks on.
Absolutely.
Because if I'm infected and I have a mask on, I will not be producing droplets everywhere that I'm going.
Yeah, and it's great you've mentioned that, because at the end of the show, later on in the show, we're going to be learning how to make masks at home.
And also I'd encourage people. I'm seeing a lot of people in the streets walking with gloves on. It does not protect you because you're having the gloves on maybe 6 hours continuously, and you're touching different surfaces. And at the end of the day, the same gloves, you're touching your phone, you're touching your handbag, you're touching other surfaces, you're transmitting the same.
So the issue is here.
Could we kindly not put on gloves but wash our hands?
Okay.
With soap and running water.
And cover our mouths. Great. Thank you very much, Lillian, for coming through to the show. We do appreciate you. Hopefully you guys have taken notes or at least heed to those pointers there. Very, very important. We all need to be working towards flattening this curve right now, just so that, it's going to affect you at the end of the day. So play your part so that you're personally responsible as far as bringing down this curve. Well, with that said, guys, we do need to take a break now as we get ready for the top of the hour. And coming up next here on the show, we still have a lot lined up for you. including our entertainer interview. We're going to be talking about the entertainment industry and how they've been affected by COVID-19. And as well, I did mention making masks at home and even farming right there where you are. That's coming up next here on Full Circle with Joy. Stay tuned.